One thing that I wish I had been taught or learned as a young boy is how much your peace is tied to what you choose to focus on. The majority of my life, I thought that a good day was dictated by what somebody said to me. I thought that a good day was dictated by what somebody else did to me. It wasn't until I got a little bit older and got a little bit more responsible, and began to walk with God that He showed me that a good day is literally dictated by what you choose to focus on. A good week, a good month, a good year, a good life is predicated upon what we choose to focus on. There's always two sides of a coin, and we can flip it just like this in our hand. And what we choose to focus on, we really, really will get. And so on today, in the Larger Than Logic podcast, this is what we're going to talk about. And hopefully, if you're dealing with anger, if you're dealing with frustration, if you're dealing with wrath inside your heart, the goal is to be able to show you God's perspective and get that anger and that frustration away from you by a change in your focus. Let's talk about it today on the Larger Than Logic podcast. So one thing that a lot of people do not know about me is that I was raised around all girls as a young boy. There were no boys in my neighborhood till I was maybe about 9 or 10 years old, and my father worked a ridiculous amount because he was a great provider. And so I was at home with the girls, not to mention I was homeschooled, so I'm not on the school bus every day. I'm not in the mix with a lot of other kids unless I go to a little program or I go to a friend's house or something like that. I'm in the neighborhood with a bunch of girls until I'm like, 9, 10 years old. And as a result, I learned a lot of great things. I learned how to take care of women and girls. I learned how to be a good listener. I learned emotional intelligence. I learned a lot of important things that helped me a lot as a man. But one thing that I internalized as a young man that I've had to do intentional work to counteract is the internalization of frustration and the running away from conflict. You see, when you are raised right around young ladies and women, you find at a very young age as a male that there is no way for you to win in conflict with women. If you all do what you're not supposed to do and you become aggressive or angry, or you do the unthinkable and even put your hands on a woman, you have now put yourself in a place where you deserve a lot. I'm just going to put it that way. You deserve a lot. But at the same time, if you do not defend yourself, if you do not speak up, if you do not, take up your space and hold your ground, you find yourself in a place where you feel very, very vulnerable. You feel very, very small. But if you have to choose between the two, most of us adopt a mindset where we say, I'd rather internalize this and suppress how I feel than let how I feel out and risk doing something that I cannot take back and that I will have to answer for. And so me growing up in this environment, I learned at a very young age that you take the disrespectful comments, that you take the hands being put on you, you take the mistreatment, because as a boy or as a man, there's no situation where it is okay for you to exhibit any type of aggression towards a woman or towards a girl. Now, as I got older and as I did begin to spend time with young boys and different things, and I realized that it's not just girls who will test your boundaries as a boy or as a man, but it's anybody who will do that. I got to a place where I said, I don't want to take this from anybody. And that rage and that anger that was bottled up inside, it turned into a level of confrontation that was very, very explosive and unhealthy. And that carried me a very long way. And it was not a good era in my life. But it wasn't until I realized that my rage and my anger was a choice that I was able to give it to God and allow Him to replace it with peace. You see, I had spent so much time just frustrated and angry, but I did not initially realize it was because I was focusing on things to keep me frustrated and angry. I would literally go to sleep at night thinking about what somebody had said or did that day. And I would wake up the next morning thinking about what somebody said and did, and thinking about what they might say and they might do that day. I went to sleep thinking about who was threatening to do this, that, and the third to me, and waking up in the morning thinking about who threatened me the day before and who might try to threaten me the day that I was waking up and going out that day. And so as a result, I found myself in a position where I'm putting myself in a perpetual cycle of ruminating about nothing but negative things that I cannot control, and continuously ruminating about negative situations that I could not or cannot control, and ruminating about the thoughts that others might have and the words that they might say and that they have said. And I found myself rather in this place where I'm focusing on nothing but people and negativity, so much so to the point where I could not even sleep at night. And that did not change until God showed me that if I stop focusing on people and negativity and I solely focus on Him and what He expects of me, everything changes. And it's literally when I became more consumed with what God thought of me than what people thought of me that everything began to change. And when I became more consumed with who God wanted me to be rather than who I felt I needed to be to survive, that everything began to change. And on today, that is why I want to suggest to you strongly that if you are dealing with anger, that if you are dealing with vengeful thoughts, if you are dealing with frustration, if you are dealing with sadness, if you are dealing with feelings of betrayal, I would like to suggest to you that though how you feel is valid, you may be a victim of thoughts that you are choosing to allow to continue to pass through your mind. You may be a victim of what you are choosing to focus on. You may be a victim of what you are choosing to give yourself over to. I know this from experience because when I was in your shoes, when I was in a position where I could not focus on anything but what was done to me, all I had on my mind was to be defensive. All I had on my mind was to survive. All I had on my mind was if I could just make it to the next day, if I could make it to the next week, I'll be okay. It wasn't until I realized that life is so much bigger than the here and now, when I realized that there's a way bigger picture and game at play than just the he say, she say, who's going to do what to who, and that I have a choice to remove myself from that game solely just by shifting my focus. Everything changed. I don't think it's by any mistake that Isaiah, the book of Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah, at the chapter 26 at verse 3, it says, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast," or who are stayed on you, because they trust in you. I'm going to say that one more time. You, talking about God, will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. You see, the fact of the matter is this, and this is how I wrote it down. The fact of the matter is that what has our mind will have our heart. And it is 100% a choice what we give our mind. I'm going to say that one more time. What we give our mind to, it will have our heart. What we give our mind to will control how we feel. What we give our mind to will control what we think about and ultimately the actions that we take. And so if you want your heart to be ruled by something negative, continue to think about negative things. If you want your heart to be dark, continue to think about things that cause you pain and sorrow and hurt you. If you want your heart to be weighed down by the cares of life, keep thinking about every problem that you cannot fix. But if you do not want your heart to be weighed down, if you do not want your heart to be hurt, if you do not want your heart to be filled with sadness and sorrow and anxiety and anger and depression, you need to change what you think about. And I'm trying to tell you, because people will try to tell you this and tell you that, but the only thing that you can focus your mind on that will make a difference is if you allow yourself to focus on the God that created you and saved you. It's when you can put yourself in a position where you are no longer focused on anything else but being a disciple. When you are no longer focused on anything else but being righteous in the eyes of God. When you are focused on nothing else but doing what He said to do and saying what He told you to say and moving how He told you to move. And that's when your life will truly be blessed. But I can tell you, you will have no form of peace as long as you continue to try to fight these battles by yourself and try to deal with anger by yourself and try to get your vengeance and your get back by yourself and try to keep up with their opinion of you and his opinion of you and her opinion of you, as long as you continue to try to live life on your terms, the way you want it, and be seen the way you want to be seen, and do what you want to do, and defend yourself and go back and forth and play all these games, you're going to continue to be without peace. But it's when you can allow yourself to choose peace by choosing Christ that the whole game changes. Your life turns completely around and things will never be the same again. And so on today, if you were to take one thing away from this episode of the Large and Logic podcast, what I need you to understand is that peace is 100% a choice. You can invite peace into your life by choosing Christ. And you have to understand that just as much as peace is a choice, everything else is a choice. And so you can choose worry or you can choose peace. You can choose anger or you can choose peace. You can choose your get back and your vengeance, or you can choose peace. You can choose your lustful thoughts and the internal conflict, or you can choose peace. You can choose to impress that person and try to impress that person, or you can choose peace. It's a choice. It's a choice. It's a choice. It's a choice. And so on today, I'd like to strongly encourage you to choose up. Stop worrying about the things that you cannot control. Stop worrying about the people that you cannot control. Stop worrying about the situations that you cannot control. What they did to you, you cannot change that. What they might do to you, you cannot change that. What they might say to you, you cannot change that. But what you can 100% control is what you choose to focus on. You can either focus on what they said, or you can focus on the peace that God is willing to give you. You can focus on what they did and what they might do, or you can focus on God and who he's called you to be and receive every blessing, including the peace that surpasses all understanding, just by focusing on him rather than them. And so on today, this is what we're going to do. We're not going to care what they say anymore. We're not going to care about what they did. We're not going to go to sleep thinking about it. We're not going to wake up thinking about it. We are going to wake up thinking about, God, what do you have for me today? We're going to wake up thinking about, God, what do you want from me today? Who do you want me to help today? Who do you want me to touch today? Who do you want me to help heal today? Who do you want me to expose to you today? How can I be better for my family today because of you? How can I be better for my kids today because of you? How can I do better in my job or in my entrepreneurial ventures today because of who you are? When we wake up and we think about these things, it's crazy how every other problem just seems to fade away. The bills seem just a little bit lighter. The stupid comment that he or she said, it's funny now because we know it has no bearing on our path or our day. We've taken back the control. That is self-control that God has given us all individually. And so on today, understand that peace is a choice. And if you are going to choose peace, the only way you can have that peace is if you focus your mind on the God that created you and saved you. My name is Avery Taylor. You are tuned into the Large and Logic podcast, and I'm so glad that you've allowed me to be a part of your journey.